Ukraine claims that it has shot down two of Russia's most sophisticated electronic warfare aircraft. I'm going to break down what they do, how this is damaging to the Russian Air Force, and how I think Ukraine did it. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's get into it. All right. The overall story is that Ukraine is reporting that it has destroyed two Russian command planes. These are, of course, an A-50, the Russian answer to the US's AWACS, and an IL-22 air control post. Now, the role these play on the battlefield is pretty substantial. An A-50 is a radar aircraft, and what makes it appealing, what makes it so unique, is that it's an airborne early warning and control system. And what this does is it can detect things like aircraft, ships, vehicles, missiles, and all other incoming projectiles at extremely long ranges. And because it is a radar system that is elevated looking down onto the battle space, it can actually gain a level of sophistication understanding the ground environment in a way that ground-based radar just can't, right? Think about it. If the ground radar is at level, I can tell you the distance from you to me, but I can't see beyond that terrain, right? I'm sort of limited. Whereas if I'm highly elevated looking down, I can see using the radar every time something enters the airspace and where it enters from. So it's a really powerful radar tool to see the battle space. And combined with a command and control aircraft, it actually enables really close command and control, close air support, and it really enables in this case, likely fighter aircraft to navigate an environment that is bristling with anti-air defenses. So without these aircraft, Russian aircraft are going to have a harder time not just individually navigating the battle space, but operating as part of a wing or coordinating their strikes over time. When used at altitude, right, the radar on an AWACS aircraft allows the operators to detect and track targets and distinguish between friendly and hostile aircraft much farther away than a similar ground-based radar. Like ground-based radar, it can be detected by opposing forces because of its mobility and extended sensor range. It's a little bit harder to counterattack. Emphasis on a little bit. And that's what I want to talk about, right? The fact is that the A-50 was also partnered with an IL-22. This is basically looks like a U.S. clone of a B-47, B-70, B-42, a really old school bomber, but it is a absolute workhorse. And it looks like this has been converted into a command and control aircraft to coordinate airstrikes over time. So taking out both of these together is actually a pretty substantial blow for the Russian Air Force, both because Russia doesn't have that many of these A-50s. They're quite expensive. I think around one. So for a U.S. and AWACS aircraft is about a $300 million expense. For the Russians, we're probably looking closer to a $30 million expense simply because of some domestic differences, but that's still a very expensive piece of equipment that's been taken out. And the rumor is that Russia only fields about 10 of these A-50s in its entire fleet. You may recall several months ago, Ukraine released footage of a drone attack in which a drone entered an airfield, landed on an aircraft, right? And then the video cut out, which Ukraine was like, this was us. This was the drone detonating. And that aircraft was actually another one of these A-50 early warning aircrafts. So a really, really devastating blow to Russian forces. But the real question is, how is it shot down? But before we get to that, if you're looking to improve your own clarity of mind in accomplishing your tasks, you don't need a $300 million AWACS. What you do need, though, is StrikeGum. StrikeGum is, of course, my energy drink alternative. With 90 milligrams of caffeine in every piece, it has all the caffeine and energy of a Red Bull or an Amp Energy, but zero sugar, none of the sugar at all, just 15 calories per piece. And of course, we have military discounts and we have all kinds of other discounts. If you go to StrikeGum.com, check it out today. Again, if you're somebody who's used to spending $4 on an energy drink, this is a great alternative. Each piece works out to like 90 cents a piece. And again, each piece, the same caffeine as that $4 Red Bull. So check us out, StrikeGum.com. Now, how did Ukraine shoot it down? Well, the rumors are that it was actually a Patriot missile battery. And the rumors are pretty credible, and here's why. Ukraine reported that these aircraft were shot down over the Sea of Azov. You can see here, right, here's Berdyansk, here's Crimea. We know there's a large number of Crimean airfields, and we know that Ukrainian forces have been able to reach out and touch these airfields in Crimea with things like ATACMS, and Storm Shadows, but hitting a static ground-based target is pretty easy. Hitting an aircraft in flight pretty hard. But we know that the max range of a Patriot missile battery about 99 miles, and that's about 160 kilometers. So you could see that if the Patriot missile, like let's say hypothetically, it was as near to the front line as possible, that would give it total distance here. Sorry, let's get rid of the total distance. So if you were to put it as near to the front line as possible and as close to the Sea of Azov, you could see you're only at 90 kilometers, right? Let's see, 160 actually is pretty deep into the sea. Now, obviously, this is as close to the front line as possible, but you guys can see that it would not be very hard to do at all for Russian forces to accidentally or perhaps deliberately get close enough to the front line that a Patriot missile could indeed engage them. You can see here, basically, if they fly anywhere inside this area of the Sea of Azov, they're going to be vulnerable to a Patriot missile battery, as well as basically anywhere inside this half. And as we talk about, the AWACS is a radar system, so it too needs to be sort of close to the battlefield to observe what's happening. And it would not shock me in the least. Now, there is some footage or some photos posted online that I can't show you that say the IL-50 was actually damaged but managed to land. Russian social media releasing a picture that says that, hey, this is our IL-22. And this is here's it landing with a damaged tail. But even so, knocking a plane like that out of commission is a great use of a Patriot missile battery anyway. Again, grounding this plane for months is A-okay. And the evidence, of course, Russia is denying that this happened, but it sounds like Ukrainian forces were actually able to release radar footage showing the plane dropping off of radar, and supposedly some distress messages were also intercepted. Anyway, guys, that is the biggest change to the front lines recently, or the battle situation. That's all I had. Hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one, guys, and cheers.